Hi, very good morning to you. It's Dean from maverickstar Observatory. Stay with me in this video because for a very small amount of you, there is something in the distance that I think, you'll be glad you was part of. I'll explain a little bit more about it. I want to thank, the few people over the last couple of days that have been helping us. And it's that what I want to talk about a bit later on. I'm not asking for any money at all in this video. It's entirely up to you. If you want to donate, that's your priority. Okay, so I wanted to talk today about what we have achieved at this point and some of the things that are going on in the background that I don't usually talk about on this channel. So what we've got so far is an observatory with some bespoke equipment that we've manufactured ourselves. I'm talking about the Trimag and the magnetometers that we've got out in the field, and with the help of MIT, we was able to make the muon detectors, which we've also got a few out in the field that collect all that data and bring it back to the maverickstar Observatory here in the UK, and we process that. We also follow a selected few other observatories like USGS for earthquakes, another one for volcanic activity. If you look on the website, you'll see where I'm on about, where we collect all our data from, like the Arctic sea ice levels, Schumann frequencies and things like that. We do have that as well. But what we've concentrated on here, I'm going to tell you a few of the projects that we've got going on in the background that a lot of you won't know about. But I think if you just hold on a few minutes, you're going to be pretty amazed, because what we're doing here on a very micro budget is stretching as far as we can in the technological advanced arena to do something pretty extraordinary, and it can't be achieved at the moment simply because, like everything, progress for me at the observatory revolves around what funds are available. But nevertheless, I've had projects which have been very slowly coming along, to mention just a couple. I mean, so basically we've got the observatory monitoring the prime aspect, which is the migrating North Pole. We thought that was one of our priorities that we should do something about and not just rely on other organisations, so we built our own equipment to monitor that. We monitor atmospheric oxygen from the observatory, CO2 levels from the observatory, and we've got out in the field muon detectors and magnetometers which measure the intensity around the local field of that, where that magnetometer is in that region of the Earth. So we've got something really amazing, guys. On a shoestring budget, we're monitoring these things regularly, and we've got that already. Now, some of you that have been following me for some time remember that I was looking into a different approach on how to build a cloud chamber. A cloud chamber is a visual aid which you can, if you're standing by it, you can actually see alpha, beta and gamma particles going through condensated alcohol. But we tried to take a different approach with this so that we could possibly in the future manufacture this for anyone that was interested in having a look at these things. But what we wanted to do is go beyond using things like dry ice, because first of all, to do that you'd have to purchase the dry ice so that you could see. So we wanted to do electronic version, so we started doing research in Peltier elements, and then we found by stacking those Peltier elements we could bring the temperature down of the final plate where we would coat in alcohol, and we could then shine lights through to visually see these particles as they pass through. And what they do is they disturb the alcohol vapor as they pass through, like a contrail on a plane, and you can see them, and some of them spin round, some of them go like alpha particles in a straight line. But could you imagine having this wonderful little apparatus in your living room where you could just flick a switch you know, top up an alcohol reservoir, and the machine do everything else for you. And could you imagine, you know, schools having access to these as well around the world? You know, in learning the basic principles of atomic particles, it would be amazing for anyone to see. I can't imagine anyone that wouldn't want one of these at a very affordable cost. So the development has been going on for years with these things, and eventually one day, you know, we might get lucky. So that's another thing that's been going on in the background. We've also got, you know, we also, obviously, you know that I generate some of my income by selling collage silver. We're very talented at making good, high quality, 40 parts per million collage silver. We also occasionally manufacture, you know, the generators themselves, so you don't have to keep buying the bottled water. You could just make your own collage silver, and to whatever strength you wanted. So that's another thing that we do. There is something else. In fact, there are a couple of other things on the back burner, and I'm going to get to the point soon where this could be beneficial for just a very few people in the not too distant future. So the other one that we've got is our laser communications, where we send messages out off, you know, into space for people. But it's not just the transmitting of digital data and audio that we're capable of doing. We're actually capable of receiving as well. So I can transmit through a laser beam, you know, audio at any level, and also video at any level, and also then receive it. Now, my little idea here with this is to raise some money at a later date. Obviously we're talking a lot of money, because this has got to be built out in space, but have a large array collector out in space which is just listening. But not only have a listening device, but have a transmitting signal, so that we can target wherever we want with this satellite, with the collector array on. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I have showed you how this all works in a previous video if you want to go back into that. But what we don't want is encouraging other companies out there with a lot of money that could easily get to the final goal before us. So the idea is to listen to what is going on out in our universe. And we also will be transmitting a message out into space for any other civilized, highly technologically developed worlds that will be out there. And now that goes well out into the realms of Star Trek technology, but it's possible to do. And because it's possible to do, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't attempt. If not just to listen, but then to do that little extra thing, but to also transmit. And we've been transmitting, you know, messages for people already out into space, but we haven't got nothing out in space that can actually listen. We have got a listening device which is not set up permanently. I could set this listening device up, this array, very quickly outside, and start listening for a signal. In the similar terms, you might have heard of SETI do, when they use, you know, the large array telescopes to listen to, which are huge things out in in America. They use those, as well as other places. They use these telescopes to listen to, you know, messages that have been sent from other worlds. Now, there was one message, and I remember looking at this message, and it was only recorded once, and that I remember seeing what someone had written on it. Whoa, you know, WOW. So they had received it, but never repeated the received message after that single point. So, you know, there would be if you know, alien races, let's get to the point, you know, these are extraterrestrials that we're trying to listen to. If they were transmitting, they would be using the technology that I have built that transmits out into space, and we've improved that. Again, we've got to change the laser out, because we was using a very high power laser that could cut steel. Now we've got an even more powerful laser than that to transmit messages. And I've also had the ideas of building an array of lasers that rotate very fastly, and then in the center of that laser is the transmission laser. And the reason for that is to just knock out any particles in its way, using the outer array lasers that will be rotating, and then fire the message through you know, the center of that. That is just basically to, you know, try and cut through the upper atmosphere, a clean hole where, you know, the transmission laser can travel out. So by using photons, we could possibly knock out some of that interference photons using the outer array laser, and then fire through the center of that laser, or that little tiny hole that we've cut with that, a message out into space, so that it's more clear. What we're doing here is line of sight, direction, communications. We've already got that sort of technology running through fibre optics. You know, we're using digital information that runs through fibre optic lines all around this world. But if you want to do something out in space, obviously you can't lay fibre optics trillions of miles away. But what you can do is use high-powered lasers to transmit that information through that laser beam. So the way we do it is we modulate the laser beam, and that modulation carries the digital information of the audio or video message, and it will travel for millions and millions of years if it doesn't come into contact with anything physical and decay the actual beam pattern. Because photons travel at the speed of light. That's why I'm saying, you know, if we're listening to, you know, a terrestrial race of people from another planet that are trying to communicate, you know, the way they're going to do it is first of all by the means of speed of light. So they're going to use an optical transmitter or a laser, similar to what we've got, at a probably greater magnitude of power. But we'll use what we've got at the moment, and, you know, we will at some point constantly listen. But it would be wonderful, you know, to have the money eventually to put this out in space, and I'm sure that if we was to make the effort, we could probably attract the investment over the coming years. We've also got something else which is a little bit far out there and needs more development, but it is physically feasible, and that is, and I know a lot of people are going to think, oh my god, you know, how many times have we heard this? But I'll just get to the point. Gravity is something that will definitely be overcome one day, if it hasn't already, and sits in, you know, very closely guarded secret places. You know, if you look at gravity as a frequency, or as, you know, particles, that's one of two ways of looking at, you know, the atomic world. If you've ever studied physics, you'll know that they will consider atomic nuclei as either a particle or a frequency, because when you do the equations regarding either of these, you get the same answer if you use frequency equations, or, you know, particle equations, you get the same answers. But if you just understand that fact, all this we need to do is learn how to block out that frequency or block out that particle to overcome the gravitational force of 9.8 meters per second on this Earth, you know, and like on the moon, I think it's off the top of my head, 3.4 meters per second, something like that. Anyhow, it's over. You can excuse me, you can overcome this. Like I say, these two, we've built the laser and the receiver already, and it works without a doubt. It clearly works. We've got that, and that we offer that little service for people if they want to send a message out to, or just a memorable message, you know, for someone that was living on this earth with them. They just want to, you know, sometimes we get people send, you know, like a love note to their lost relatives to say that, you know, we're trying to tell them in the heavens that we've not forgotten, things like that. We get all sorts of messages, but they're private, and I won't go into any detail or mention names or whatever, but we do get, you know, all sorts of messages with that. But we've got it already built, is the main thing. And I'm getting to the point, guys, so just bear with me a few minutes. There is, you know, a silver lining in this cloud for those people that have been, you know, helping us out a little bit here. I'll get to that. So, you know, the anti-gravity development is only on paper at the moment. But this is something I've probably worked 15, 20 years on. And I believe I've got to a point where this is, you know, a real possibility. But the technology only just exists to do it, and, you know, we don't have the funds to do that. So we would have to probably rely on other things to get to that point further down the road. Okay, so that's our observatory. You know, we've got some, you know, when you think about it and just the things that I've talked about, it's pretty amazing what we've got at this point in time. And we've only been able to do that because I have been fortunate to, you know, get this off the ground now, this observatory. And, you know, I've not had a boss above me telling me what I can put my, you know, my expertise into. So I've been allowed to sort of like come into a room and choose what I wanted out of everything in that room, where I wanted to, you know, push the development or research on that particular topic. So we've pushed it on communications, deep space communications, and, you know, eventually anti-gravity technology. We are hoping to raise more money with things like Collider Silver generators, and when we are successful at building a little device that somebody can watch cosmic rays in their own living room with the family or at school with the teachers, you know, we will market that as well. And if we can put these things together, some of those revenues together, you know, we can invest in the other things that we've got. So let's get to the point. You know, we are building something clearly here. There is something now more of value than what we did have 5 years ago, and the only reason that has been that has enabled us to get to this point is because we had some support, and we got, you know, my expertise in the science field, and we've achieved some pretty remarkable stuff already, guys. You know, we are one of the only observatories in the world relaying, you know, weekly and monthly information on, you know, cosmic rays, you know, the levels of intensity of magnetism in certain fields, and of course tracking the magnetic North Pole migration. You know, you won't get any of this anywhere else, I promise you. We've got it here on our little website, and, you know, 20,000 people a week know this. So I've got to get to the point. You know, eventually we are going to be able to possibly float this on the stock market, and that is my intention to do that. And for those few people that have constantly stood with us in a little bit of financial support in making a donation regularly, are going to get given freely some shares in this observatory, and who knows what the value of those will be worth at that point. I could get the shares together now to give away, but I don't want to do it now. I want to do it at a later date when there is a lot more worth, and I think there's worth now in there, but I'm going to give you them free for helping. I think you deserve it. You know, and there is a very, very small list of people that have, you know, been with us for a long time, and I think that the only way to say thank you to them is to actually do this. And I'm not thinking of doing this in the short time. I'm thinking, probably in a couple of years' time. Hopefully by then we'll have a few more products which we'll be able to sell in order to make revenue, to invest back into this observatory in those other technologies. But I think you'll agree that, it's pretty amazing what we've got so far. And when you see where we will be in 4 years' time, hopefully we will be putting some of these larger ideas that we've got, and some only on paper now, into practice. And we could be like Bill Gates was 30, 40 years ago, that company or that organisation or the observatory that brings something out into the world that changes lives for millions and millions of people. And that could be the anti-gravity technology, that could be the communications that links us up with extraterrestrials from other worlds. We could probably be at the forefront of that race, and we're doing something right now about it. So for those few people out there, and I'm not mentioning names, you know who you are, you've been with us for a long time, and I think you deserve something back. I've got your contact details, and you will get that something back as a way of saying thank you. And who knows what those shares will be worth at that point in time. So yeah, I don't always talk about these things, but I wanted to today because I was watching something that inspired me this morning, and I just thought, we should probably do or invest a little bit more time in getting those other things advanced, so that we can move to the next step. And that's what we want to do. And I just want to say this, if one day someone does announce anti-gravity technology, you'll never have to worry about energy production ever again, because you will at that point definitely be able to achieve 0 point energy, and it will resolve the world's energy crisis overnight. And we've always been public. If ever we do get to that level here at the observatory, we will broadcast that information as fast as we can and as widespread as we can, so that the technology is available for everybody. And that includes, I know this would not probably go down well with some other people, but that would put it back out there in the free domain. And that would be the only way that something like that would be able to be made useful, because you can imagine energy companies shutting things like this down. It would definitely offend them. But we are working slowly and progressively to that point. Hopefully one day we'll be there. So guys, I'm going to round it up here. I'll say what I usually do. There is a link down there, and for those that have supported us over the years, I just want to say you haven't been forgotten, and hopefully we can give you something back. We are working still as hard as ever here at the observatory to do that little bit more. So link down there. Any other thing to say is you take care of your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.